TQM, Total Quality Management. It really is the concept that really was founded by Deming, and he promoted it, and the auto industry in Japan embraced it top and bottom. It really helps focus a people orientation. It helps us to listen to people in the process as to, I have a frustration over here, and helps orientate everybody back to the job itself. I use TQM. We had a problem in human resources. We had the colleges saying human resources took way too long to hire people. We used TQM. We went through every single part of the process from the people that initiated it at the colleges, and then we turned around and we took it from the colleges, and then we sat down, we measured every single step. We had 11 different steps in the process, and of the 11 different steps, we measured each one. We from a body of different processes going forward for hiring, and by the time it was all done, we found that human resources took about 3 weeks to hire somebody as soon as the committee approved it. The most of the time was taken up in the approval process at the college and actually selecting the committee, developing the committee questions, but the actual work of human resources was relatively stable in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. Once we sat down and had the front end, which are part of the college, approved, and then taken it to the board for approval. It was really an interesting study because of the fact the whole process was actually an 8 to 11 week process, and only really that short period of time was a human resource aspect. It shed a whole different light. I believe in TQM really helps us to refocus where we're supposed to be. Manufacturing industries, they provide a tangible product where 80% of our economy in the United States is in the service industry. That probably is more undefined in the aspect of defining a TQM process than manufacturing. Manufacturing is easier because this is the product, this is the beginning, this is the raw materials, this is the end materials, over here, packaging, shipping, boom, boom, boom. It is a much more linear process where services are really very different because of the fact there seems to be more flexibility in the process. TQM really helps a lot in the service industry. Really, one of the core factors, and I believe this, and you've already heard me say it, the truth of all training is the most important training you can give an employee happens when you first hire them. It's called orientation. Get them used to doing the job well. And if they don't do it well at the beginning, correct them until they finally get the message, this is how we want it done. This is how we want it done. And keep up with the mantra until they get it. And nobody wants to be ineffective in their job. Nobody wants to do a poor job. They all want to come in and do a good job, have some recognition, and get paid. Okay, but the reality is the orientation is a big thing. That's where you have the training, and that's where you establish them to have the mantra of quality service or quality products as what they're doing. Here is Six Sigma, a couple different aspects of it. That's usually a way to help eliminate defects in the process. You also have a whole series of ISO, different aspects, initiatives, ISO 9000 and ISO 14000. Really, those are led by auditors. It takes about 3 years before you get an ISO 9000 certification, which what that is you go through each step of a process inside of a factory and you quantify it and you put each step in writing. This turn lathe over here, to turn it on, you turn on this switch over here, and you actually have a booklet on each different item in the place. You document it, you audit it, you make certain the employees are doing it. By the time you're done, if you get a 9000 or 9001 ISO 9000 certification in your factory, you are looking really good. The 14000 series is really about environmental aspects, how you're doing it really from an energy perspective. Those are fabulous tools for auditing. That's what it comes down to. Sometimes if you have a problem, let's say your custodial services, your human resource department or whatever, you want to sit down and just come down to your core business. Sometimes you outsource it. You can outsource it in the United States. You can outsource some things outside the country. We call that offshoring. And you want to look at different aspects, let them have it and focus. One of the companies that does this the best is Nike. Nike, they are not a shoe manufacturer. Don't get that thing, and they're not a clothing manufacturer. Nike is a design company and a marketing company. All the other stuff is outsourced. They do not make the shoes. They don't make the uppers. They don't make the lowers. They don't make the outfits. They have spectacular designers and marketing people. That's the thing. And everything else is part of a virtual corporation where they outsource it. Look at what are you good at and outsource it. Sometimes on TQM, you can reduce your recycle time. You can reduce the whole process control aspect when you take random samples and see how that particular product is coming along. The vast majority of TQM adopters, when you follow out the general principles, you have an improved operational performance. This is like the ultimate control tool, but it takes time. You have to measure everything, and then compare that to your industry standards, which is obviously really the aspect what you're trying to do. You're trying to have the very best benchmark. You're going to compare you in the process. If you can get the data from the one you're using for a benchmark as to how long it takes to do the same process you're doing, all of a sudden now you have an identifiable source and a goal and objective for your company to reach to become the best in the industry. Using artificial intelligence, if that works right, life is going to be really good in the aspect of control. It can actually go and research things somewhat accurately. Sometimes you have to worry about the fact whether or not you're getting accurate data out of artificial intelligence. We're not there, a lot of it, especially with the large language models, but the reality, that's always a big deal. Employee tracking and monitoring. This is kind of worrisome. Literally, a lot of places now have implementation. They have pictures on car license plates. They have their local security can drive up and down the roads and see what employees' cars are there based upon the fact from scanners. They can also do facial recognition. It's relatively easy. So employee tracking and monitoring, no, they don't need to put a chip in your form. They just need to sit down and get a look at your face when you walk in the front door. They don't need time clocks anymore. They can just sit down there and make certain that you're showing up to work. Like, it's a little bit scary. It's a control issue, but it also is part of our life. When you're using AI, artificial intelligence, to control, if it's working right and you program it properly, it can reduce errors and defects. It's going to be able to see data and information that the average human sometimes won't be able to see. It's going to increase productivity, and really, it's a huge tool in supply chain management. In supply chain, we went from having paper clipboards to somebody with a steel clipboard to somebody having an iPad in their hand, driving their forklift around the warehouse, grabbing things. And now, all of a sudden, now you have a box on top of your forklift and it's telling you, go to bay 6J. And you go to bay 6J and you pick up, ding, 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 a light on top of it. And you pick up the thing and you haul it to the right bay for the truck. You have all kinds of different ways that AI is enhancing the productivity and efficiency of moving things through a warehouse into trucks, into your hands, to the point that now it's almost an expectation that when you order something, it's not uncommon to get it the same day. Just depends how good that really is. The advantages of employee tracking and monitoring, you do have an invasion of personal privacy that kind of is a little bit 1984-ish, but the reality, the disadvantages sometimes, it just depends. You have to weigh those out for your individual organization. TQM, it really is all about mapping out the current, looking for opportunities, and then if the opportunity presents itself in a good fiscally sound way, an ethical way, then implementation in the process. I recommend you explore the topic of TQM. Of course, you have it here, but when you get into the workplace, use it as a tool to sit down and polish your organization to its top, finest standard by going through and measuring every single aspect through the controls that we're talking about here in this section, as well as the rest about TQM, Total Quality Management. It's been proven for decades and decades to be one of the best tools for making you shine in the world of quality as services or as a product producer. Take care.